Good afternoon. Thanks for sticking around. I'll try to make this as succinct as possible so we can all go get some beers and dinner. So I work for Colusa Indian Energy. We are the sole tribally owned microgrid EPC developer in the country today. And so what I'm going to talk about is our home microgrid in Colusa, California. The last 10 minutes of this will be a little bit of a sales pitch, but the rest of it will be useful, hopefully. So let's get into it. Summary of the tribe that I work for. I've been the Tribal Utility Authority Director for the Colusa Indian community in this the same, not the title, but function since 2007. I've worked in Indian country for about 20 years total. Of the 230 some odd combined heat and power microgrids across the country, I was involved in the construction, management, and operation of 56 of those. So consider myself a subject matter expert in combined heat and power microgrid specifically. Summary of the Colusa Indian community. It consists of 45 members. It's a small tribe, the Cashel-Dehe Band of Wintoon Indians in Northern California, total of 155 residents. The tribe resides in the heart of Northern California's agricultural land on a 290-acre reservation. The tribe also owns 16,000 acres of fee land, primarily agricultural. The tribe owns and operates the Colusa Casino Resort, which is powered, heated, and cooled by the Tribal Utility Authority's tri-generation power plant. The TUA's 7.1 megawatt microgrid has experienced zero power interruptions at all in the last 12 years. So that's no blackout, no brownout, nothing at all. Here's a shot of the resort. It's a modest resort, 4 miles north of a small town called Colusa. This is about an hour north of the state capital, Sacramento. Quick history of the Tribal Utility Authority itself. Back in 2003, the tribe created an electrical department just to handle in-house electricians' work. Back in 2005, what we call the cogen is actually a trigen, and I'll get into that in a second. But the trigen was commissioned in 2005, and the TUA itself was created in 2021 to unify the resources and leadership of both of those departments. The team includes me, managers, leads, technicians, operators, journeyman electricians, welders, pipe fitters, fabricators, and apprentices. Brief explanation of cogen versus trigen. So we have a natural gas-fired tri-generation power plant at the heart of our microgrid, and I'll get into the renewable options for a system like that near the end of this presentation, but currently it's using natural gas. Cogen versus trigen, really these are very similar. The very first power plant built in New York City, Pearl Station, 142 years ago, was a cogeneration power plant. So the technology has existed literally since day one. It's gotten a whole lot more efficient since then, obviously, but it's ideal as a baseload power supply for microgrids that also have heating and cooling loads. And so for the tribes that we're developing with, the majority of them have casino resorts, or they have cannabis operations, or they have healthcare facilities that have a stable, constant heating and cooling demand. And so this is where cogen or trigen really shines and becomes a really efficient, cost-effective option to use as your primary baseload power supply. That being said, for Colusa Indian Energy, the majority of the microgrids that we're in development for are 100% renewable. Solar, PV, wind, battery energy storage. However, there are some tribes, especially those with large resorts, that are insisting on something like this, whether it's cogen or trigen. Cogeneration is the production of electricity and usable heat from a single source of energy, which in our case today is natural gas, but it could be hydrogen, biogas, et cetera. These engines or turbines or fuel cells can use various types of fuel supply. Tri-generation produces power, heating, and cooling, and that's what we've got. So from a single volume of energy, in our case, natural gas, it could be, like I said, hydrogen or biofuel. In that single volume of fuel, if you're just burning that fuel to create electricity, your overall efficiency is about 40%. Same as the engine in your car. The majority of that energy is wasted in heat out of the tailpipe. Same for power generation. So if you capture that waste heat and put it to work in a cogen system, your overall efficiency climbs to 75% plus. And that means you're using that heat for on-site heating loads, right? Thermal loads, meaning space heating, water heating, et cetera. If you bump that up to tri-gen, where you're using that single volume, that single input of fuel, and capturing the waste heat to produce space heating and hot water, and then also putting that waste heat into what are called absorption chillers, you can produce 100% of your cooling needs for your facility. Now your overall efficiency is over 90%. And this is why EVs make so much sense, is because if you're losing 60% of the energy of that fuel that's going into the engine, it's not very efficient, right? And so for EVs, you've got 90+% efficiency. So this is the general idea of what cogen and tri-gen really means. It's just the most efficient way possible that you can burn that fuel. You're capturing as much of the energy from that fuel as possible. A brief history, a timeline of what we've done at our home microgrid in Colusa. Back in 2005, the resort was expanded, hotel was built, and at that time, our IOU is PG&E. We call them Pacific Greed and Extortion. They are the single largest electric utility in the country, and they are no friend to any tribe, including Colusa, and very difficult negotiators. And at that time, back in 2005, the reservation was experiencing 50+ power outages per year, which is extraordinarily bad business for a casino, especially. Not to mention the tribal elders and families who were constantly without power. That's one a week. So instead of giving PG&E $40 million of the tribe's money to upgrade PG&E's infrastructure with no performance guarantee, the tribe instead decided to invest in their own energy future by building this tri-generation power plant. Originally, the tri-gen was built to power just the resort, including hotel and tribal administrative campus. It originally consisted of 4 megawatts of Jenbacher gas engines and a pair of Thermax absorption chillers. Skip ahead to 2012. We reduced the average annual rate of outages from over 50 down to 3, and the tribal leaders came to me and said they would really like to see that be 0. And so we engineered a plan to make it 0, and ever since our backup power system was installed, we've had 0 power interruptions. So that backup power system is, at that time in 2012, was really bleeding edge stuff. It only existed in big data centers, Facebook, Microsoft, Google, critical government facilities like NORAD. And then little old Colusa Casino, just on the river in the middle of farmland. So we added a 4 megawatt battery UPS system. We added 4 megawatts of diesel backup engines. And like I said, since then, we've had no outages at all. 2014, we got a mandate from the Economic Development Corporation Board of the tribe to begin investing in renewables. And so they were, again, ahead of the curve in their own energy infrastructure, prioritizing carbon-free sources of power generation. And so I had to figure out how to integrate this into the existing microgrid. The DOE, Office of Indian Energy, provided us with a lot of money to begin this project. So the first phase of this project was completed with a 500 kilowatt solar canopy installed in the parking lot of the casino, and then we added 100 kW of rooftop solar as well. 2015, our central control system was upgraded. the absorption chiller expansion and replacement project began, and we added a permanent 300 kW load bank to the system. This, we were still connected to PG&E at this time. We operated in island mode full-time, but we had the ability to parallel with the utility. And in order to parallel with the utility, we had to meet their minimum import requirements. So if we weren't importing at least 220 kilowatts of power within a second of closing PG&E's breaker, the breaker would pop back open. And so this load bank solved that problem for us. 2018, the original 4 Jenbacher gas engines were replaced at just over 80,000 operating hours. And then we added 2 additional Jenbacher gas engines for a total gas engine capacity of 6 megawatts. The new engines that we have, these new 6 engines, are 100% hydrogen ready. So our plan is by 2026 to have 25% hydrogen blend going into the existing engines, and by 2030 to be operating on 100% hydrogen, green hydrogen going into these engines. It's an important point to make that the engines being sold today are all 100% hydrogen ready. 2019, we finished the solar project out in the parking lot. We added another half of a megawatt thanks to the DOE Office of Indian Energy. That was a 90% grant. And so now our total solar PV capacity is up to 1.1 megawatts. This brings our total microgrid capacity up to 7.1 megawatts. In 2020, the DOE helped again fund a pretty ambitious plan for us to completely remove PG&E from the entire reservation. And this is not something that I would recommend right out of the gate to anybody. But PG&E was, again, a tough negotiator. They sent all their big guns from San Francisco. And this is a small tribe, a small area, relatively small loads. But I had an executive EP tell me they're not in the business of handing over a square inch of their service territory to anyone. And so they made it very difficult. The negotiations took a long time. Initially, they wanted many millions of dollars in order to cooperate, and ultimately, the tribe paid $0, and we rolled them off completely, installed our own underground distribution system. And since then, the TUA has powered not just the resort and tribal administrative campus, but all of the tribal members' homes, all of the tribally owned businesses, thousands of acres of agricultural loads, and we are truly our own utility. And so we handle metering, billing. We don't need help from anybody. Last year, we finished the absorption chiller expansion project. We began a UPS expansion project because ultimately we have 6 megawatts of gas engines. We're about to have 6 megawatts of diesel engines, and our battery system is only 4 megawatts. So we have a critical choke point in the system to where it's going to limit our ability to expand, or grow the reservation. So the UPS is being expanded right now. I picked up a 2 megawatt battery energy storage system. I got that for free from the city of Santa Rosa. They couldn't get it interconnected with PG&E, and so I couldn't get down there fast enough with a crane and a truck to haul it up to the reservation, and now I'm trying to figure out what to do with it. And then also Colusa Indian Energy Corporation was formed. So the last few slides are really just about what we're doing with Colusa Indian Energy. Number one, we're trying to export our decades of microgrid expertise to all tribes that want it. And so far, we're in development with 23 tribes today. We have $500 million in the construction pipeline. Right out of the gate, we got swooped up by a lot of big gaming tribes. And that's great. We're not going to turn down that revenue opportunity. But for me personally, what gets me out of bed in the morning is, the 1.4% of Americans have no access to electricity. In Native America, that number's 14%. 10 times the national average. On the Navajo Nation alone, there's 13,500 plus families who have never had electricity. That's really what spurred us to start this corporation. Our business model is very different from every other corporation that you're going to deal with in this space. priority really is about energizing Indian country, the natives who have never seen electricity, number one. And number two, tribes in general across the board are underserved by the IOUs. So there's a lot of reasons for us to operate in this space and to give our decades of experience to the tribes who could benefit from it. Ultimately, we want to promote tribal energy sovereignty by assisting tribes with their own TUA creation and management, and act as a firewall between tribes and non-tribal entities in the energy infrastructure space across Indian country. So this isn't just us, stepping between tribes and IOUs. It's us stepping between tribes and non-tribally owned contractors, right? So the energy space is no different than gaming or healthcare or anything else that tribes are operating in, and there are bad actors in this space. And thankfully, groups like the Alliance for Tribal Clean Energy, the Tribal Energy Consortium, there are a lot of new, really well-developed groups that are taking this head on, and their partnership programs really important to be able to vet these companies who are trying to make a buck in Indian country in energy. And so far we've had a lot of success in that regard. Our services that we offer, we do turnkey grant funding. That means identifying funding opportunities for tribes that may not be aware of grants that they would qualify for, offering the technical assistance to complete the applications and see them through, and then at the end of that, we're ready to act as turnkey microgrid contractor. Engineering, structural, civil, mechanical, electrical, full construction team, operations and maintenance. Another big differentiator between us and virtually everybody else in this space is we don't charge a dime for our development time. There are a lot of consultants in Indian country across the board, but especially in energy, that their entire business model consists of camping out on your reservation and charging you tens of thousands of dollars a month to end up with stacks of papers and plans, and nothing ever gets built. It's a very, very different model for us. We get in and out quickly, we identify the problems, we listen to the tribe's needs and wants, develop a proposal, and wait. None of that costs any money to any of the tribes that we're developing with. Again, TUA formation assistance and really building an alliance of tribes who can depend on each other. So what does that mean for us? It means getting out of tribes' ways, right? So every other contractor on earth is more than happy to be a leech on your tribe's back for decades. Not just in energy, but in every space. We have no ambition to do that. And we're giving away a lot of potential revenue in that case. But what this means is after construction and commissioning, we offer the tribes a 1, 2, maybe 3-year runway at tops. We develop their workforce for them. So we hire the staff, we train the staff. And when the tribe is ready and has their TUA formed, and they have the desire to be completely self-sufficient, like the Calusa tribe has been, we give that staff to the tribe that we're developing with, and walk away. We're a long-term partner, a long-term resource, but really what we want is for these tribes to call us once a year to tell us how great it's running. We don't want to be the guys getting the phone call every Saturday night and collecting hundreds of thousands of dollars a month in O&M fees that otherwise could go into their tribe's own workforce development. We've managed to create a lot of meaningful partnerships, leveraging decades of relationships that we've built with some big key players in the industry, including Jenbacher, Caterpillar, Rolls-Royce, 2G Energy, Miratech, Omniverter. Trane is now on this list, and Broad USA, one of the biggest absorption chiller manufacturers. Navajo Power is a little bit different in that they're a native-owned solar developer, so they develop up to the gigawatt scale for utility scale solar PV installations. We have no desire to work in that space, so They handle all of that for us, and they pass off any microgrid opportunities in Indian country for us. So what does this gain, not just Calusa, but the tribes that we're working with? Number one, it gives us the best possible pricing on equipment, parts, service that we pass on to the tribes that we're working with. And number two, it guarantees top-level factory training access. So the systems that we're building and designing and developing are complex, right? And so our team is large in Calusa. We actually are responsible for not just the power generation. The TUA manages everything from the point of power generation all the way down to the light switches in every tribal member's home. The entire microgrid is our responsibility, and we do this with a team of 16 people. It's usually not going to be the case. However, you still need some significant technical expertise to be able to operate and maintain these systems long term. And so by gaining, access to this level of training, meaning you're bypassing these multi-billion-dollar distributorship networks and going directly to the factory for the best possible training that you can get, we pass that on to the tribes that we're developing with. So the tribal workforce has the same access to this level of training that end users would never have access to. So that's the end of my sales pitch. If there's any questions about the microgrid development itself or about Calusa Indian Energy's goals, mission, where we're going, I'd be happy to hear you out. Thank you.
Good stuff. Yeah, hey, thank you. Questions? We have a little time left here. Can we get that light up there?
I was going to say, great job on the presentation, Ken. I've been to Calusa and I've seen their microgrid in operation, and it's pretty fantastic to see in person. It's overwhelming and a very, very large facility, but Ken and his team do a great job at what they do, and just appreciate you presenting here.
Thanks, Jeremy. Appreciate it.